Hey, what's up? We are live for Free Advice Friday, the first Free Advice Friday of 2026, and the first live stream that I have done since the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, where 104 voice actors shared over $30,000 in prizes. If you missed out on the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, I am really sorry that you missed out. Keep an eye out for it, though, coming again this December. We had a lot of fun on the live streams, though. You can go back and watch it here on the channel if you missed it. Congratulations to everybody who won prizes. Obviously, a really fun activity that makes for a slightly more Merry Christmas for those who are able to win a prize. But I think even for those who are able to just watch and enjoy the live stream. But we are now back with Free Advice Friday, and I am looking forward to hanging out with you guys for a little while this afternoon, answering your voiceover business and marketing questions, and hopefully helping some of you with a little bit of guidance towards whatever you need. So I want to start by talking about some changes that are coming to Instagram. We've talked a couple of times in the past year about changes that are coming with hashtag strategies. And those hashtag strategies have been shifting on multiple platforms. X has basically said that hashtags are now completely irrelevant. You don't need them anymore. LinkedIn is working hard at moving away from hashtag strategy. Instagram has been not specifically moving away from it entirely, but trying to get people to recognize that hashtags don't work the way that they used to, and maybe they don't carry the same level of relevance that they previously did. And so Instagram has been testing a few different things with hashtag strategies recently, and I think it sounds like they've finally settled on what it's going to look like going forward. So going forward, you will be limited to 5 hashtags in an Instagram post. What they're trying to get people away from is using 30 hashtags, because in the past you were allowed to use up to 30 hashtags, but people are spamming things. So maybe you're posting a voiceover reel and something that's promoting your voiceover business, but you're posting it during the Super Bowl. Now, it doesn't have anything specifically to do with the Super Bowl, but you would throw in hashtag Super Bowl because you want to try to get in on the Super Bowl feed and maybe get a few more eyeballs on your video. And so that's just one example of how people were trying to use some of the hashtag strategy. And that's the stuff that Instagram's trying to get away from. So going forward, you will be limited to 5 hashtags in an Instagram post. And they are telling you to choose your hashtags strategically and wisely. The most recent test that they ran, they were actually allowing a lot of people to only use 3 hashtags, but it sounds like they've settled on 5. Part of the reason why they're moving away from this is that ultimately it's AI algorithms that are going to determine what you see on Instagram. You've probably already noticed this. So, for example, if you watched some videos on, I don't know, baseball, okay? You watch a couple of videos on baseball, you like a couple of videos on baseball. The next time that you log into Instagram, you notice that the vast majority of your feed is now baseball. That's because the algorithm sees, oh, they watch baseball, they like baseball, let's give them more baseball. And so it's algorithms judging the content that you are interacting with, and that is determining what kind of content that you are ultimately going to get fed. And so it's moved more towards that and further away from the hashtags. However, hashtags can still have relevance. So let's say that I'm a Boston Red Sox fan and I want to try to get connected with other Boston Red Sox fans. So I do a search for the hashtag Red Sox, and then anybody that comes up, content that comes up, it helps me to get connected to other people who are posting in that space. So what Instagram is saying now is, number one, understand AI algorithms are ultimately going to drive what people see, and what they interact with is going to help to determine that. Number two, if you want to be able to get your content indexed, you can still use hashtags, but you need to be really strategic about the hashtags that you're using. So if you are posting voiceover content and posting it, hashtag voiceover, hashtag voice acting, for example, that's fine. That's relevant. If you are posting voiceover content and you are trying to jump onto trending hashtags just to try to get a little bit of extra reach, that's the sort of stuff that's not going to work on the platform anymore. That's the sort of stuff that they are encouraging you to get away from. So think very strategically about the type of content that you are sharing. So let's say that I post one of my docu-shorts. Now, that is technically voiceover content, but my objective for those docu-shorts isn't necessarily to get it in front of other voice actors. So I'm going to use hashtag documentary, hashtag filmmaker, hashtag docuseries. Maybe it's an extreme weather one, so I might use hashtag extreme weather. So I'm choosing hashtags strategically that will try to get that content in front of the people that I want to see it, but recognizing that those hashtags are still relevant to the content and the content is relevant to the people that I'm pushing it out in front of. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So that is what is going on with hashtags moving forward on Instagram. So again, quick recap, you are now going to be limited to 5 hashtags in your post, and you have to choose those hashtags really strategically to try to get your content in front of the right people. I think this is something that we are going to continue to see change. Allegedly, Threads is now going to be limiting people to 1 hashtag in a post. And so keep that in mind as well if you are using the Threads platform. LinkedIn is doing something very similar where they're now using AI algorithms to try to push content to the right people. Allegedly, what is going on partly is that it's AI is scanning your post. And so if I'm writing a post that is meant to be targeted for e-learning, for example, maybe I'm writing a post about my e-learning work that I do as a voice actor, I'm going to use the word e-learning. I'm going to use the word instructional designer. I'm going to use the word training video inside of my post. In the copy that I write on my post, the algorithm or the AI is going to scan that post and they're going to say, oh, e-learning and training videos. And okay, so let's push this post out to other people who are talking about e-learning and talking about training videos. And so I don't need to use the hashtags now in order to get it in front of those people. Now, can you still use hashtags and get that content indexed? Sure, but it's definitely something that LinkedIn is moving away from. A lot of these platforms are moving away from it. I think, forget how you feel about Elon Musk. I think he probably said it best when he basically just said, look, hashtags are ugly. He's not wrong. When I read an Instagram post and it's got 30 hashtags littered throughout it, it is kind of ugly. And if the technology doesn't serve a purpose anymore, once upon a time, hashtags were very important in determining audiences, determining how content got indexed, determining who it got pushed out in front of. Now that the technology has shifted, we don't need that anymore. I understand why platforms are starting to move away from it. So something to keep in mind as you are going forward with your social media strategy, but particularly with your Instagram strategy for 2026. So again, welcome to Free Advice Friday. First time that we are live here in 2026. I'm looking forward to hanging out, looking forward to answering all of your voiceover business and marketing questions. If you are enjoying the live stream, would you do me a favor? Hit that like button. I would certainly appreciate it. If you have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, feel free to type it in the comments. If you could put a Q beside your question, it does help just to pop out in the chat for me a little bit because sometimes the chat gets busy. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I don't want to miss your question. But if you do have a question that you would like to ask and get answered, this is your opportunity. By all means, that is what I'm here for. That is what I am hanging out for. So let's see what we got going on. Sam says, when you're posting docu-reels, are you first asking, is this on my Voice123 yet? Okay, so Sam is about to be permanently banned from my YouTube channel because she's just harassing me now. My gosh, Sam is working on my Voice123 profile. And she has absolutely worked her magic on my Voice123 profile. I went from completely unfound and unranked for anything to being page 1 for a lot of different things, which is amazing. And that is all credit to Sam. But now every day, Sam is in my inbox saying, do you have any new clips for me? Do you have any new clips for me? Do you have any new clips for me? I'm pretty much convinced that she's not going to leave me alone until I have like 1,000 samples on my Voice123 profile, which, by the way, you could do, or I'm assuming anyway. I don't know that Voice123 has a limit, but definitely more samples are better when it comes to that sort of stuff. Oh my gosh. Sam, you're relentless. It's okay. Tim and I talked extensively about you sabotaging your career. I'm telling you, it's in the podcast. New episode coming next Thursday. Speaking of the podcast, very briefly, let me mention, if you've been missing the podcast, I hope you've been missing the podcast. When I got to December, I was burnt out, straight up burnout. I had done almost 400 coaching sessions, I think, over the course of the year. Obviously producing a new episode of the podcast every week, doing live streams, all the things that were going on. And I was just done. I had nothing left to give. Plus, the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas has become such an animal. I literally worked for 2 weeks straight until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every single day, doing the final preparations for 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, getting the prizes all sorted out, getting the live stream built, working on some of the things that were going into the live stream, ballots, sorting ballots, all of that sort of stuff. And so I decided at the beginning of December that I was going to do something that I thought was probably a really bad idea. And that was to take a month off of the podcast. I thought, this is probably it. This is probably the end of it. Probably nobody's going to come back and listen after that, because if you go away for a month, you might as well be gone for an eternity. But I really needed it. I really needed the break. And it actually ended up being a really smart thing, because what it did was it gave me the break that I absolutely needed. But it also, by the third or fourth week, I was like, man, I kind of miss the podcast. So I have started working on new episodes. It will be back. The Everyday VOpreneur Podcast is going to return next Thursday. First episode is going to be with Tim Heller, and it was a brilliant conversation. Let's see, what else have I got? Joe Cipriano. I've confirmed Joe Cipriano. Him and I are going to be doing an interview, so that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Ryder has confirmed with me, going to be doing an interview with him. So that one's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. I am working on putting together an episode that will talk specifically about political voiceover. We are not going to talk politics. Not happening. But we are going to talk political voiceover. So some good things are coming. So the Everyday VOpreneur Podcast will be back very soon, wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. Briscoe says, how in-depth and specific do I need to be when vetting new leads? What things can be eliminated from the outset? This is a really good question. And one of the perspectives that I want you to think about is, how much time is it going to take me to vet the lead versus how much time is it going to take me to send the email? So when I teach my introductory email workshop, one of the things that I make everybody in that workshop do is, by the time we get to the end of the workshop, everybody has an opportunity to write an email, but I set a 5-minute timer. And I do that for a reason. I want to prove to people that you can write a really good marketing email in 5 minutes. And nobody believes that it's possible, but in the end, pretty much everybody does it. They write an email in 5 minutes. So the first question that I would be asking when it comes to vetting, if it only takes me 5 minutes to write the email, or if I'm only going to allow myself 5 minutes to write the email, then I can't allow myself more than 5 minutes to try to vet this lead, because at that point, I'm now losing time. There's an opportunity cost there. So a couple of quick things. When I look at their website, is there any evidence that would appear that they are actually using voiceover? Quickly go through their portfolio page. Can I find some stuff there that I can listen to and see, oh yeah, there's voiceover on that? Or when I go to their portfolio page, is it all talking head videos? And so there's a much lower probability that they're using voiceover. Not everybody has a pricing page. Some do. If I go on to an explainer video company website and I see that they're cranking out explainer videos for $495, that pretty much tells me everything that I need to know. There's not going to be much of a budget for voiceover if the whole entire video itself is only $495. So looking at the pricing page, whenever there is one, that could be certainly helpful. Looking at their services page, anywhere on their services page, does it specifically mention voiceover? A lot of times it will. And so those are a couple of the quick things that I can check and see to help me ultimately determine whether or not this is somebody that I want to reach out to. But again, just remember that you can't spend so much time doing the vetting. If it's taking you more time to vet than it's taking you to send the email, then you may as well just send the email, is basically what I'm saying. All right, let's see. Colin, welcome. Ann, welcome. Tab made it. Look at, she made it. I was giving her a hard time. We had a coaching session earlier and I was giving her a hard time about showing up, but she actually showed up. Good for you, Tab. All right. Let's see what else is going on. Again, if you have a question that you would like to ask for Free Advice Friday, why don't you go ahead and post it in the chat? I would certainly be happy to answer as many questions as possible. It's because success is in the follow-up. I followed up and got 6 more samples from you. It's so true. I actually got so tired of her emailing me, asking me for samples, that literally at like 11 o'clock the other night, I think it was, I don't know, it was late. I literally sat down and cranked out a bunch of samples for her because I was just like, go away, Sam, leave me alone. Stop bothering me. Success is in the follow-up. It's true. She literally was going to keep emailing me until I actually did what she was trying to get me to do. If by the second or third marketing email you haven't heard from a lead, is it a good idea to reach out to another person in that company or continue following up with the original lead? I do think there comes a point where it's worth giving it another shot. Sometimes you look at a company's website and, maybe there's more than one producer. Maybe you're targeting video producers or you're targeting executive producers or something like that. Maybe there's 5 of them. And so you pick one, write them an intro email, send them a couple of follow-ups, don't get anything. You have nothing to lose at that point by going and giving somebody else a shot. Maybe that person doesn't check their email. Maybe that person isn't responsible for voiceover. Maybe that person's neck deep in some other project right now and they don't need anything and that's why they're not responding to you. And so I certainly think that it doesn't hurt to try to reach out to somebody else at that point. Let's see, what else is going on? I need a recommendation for a first line in an email. I feel like, hi, I'm sound bland. Yeah, that's how everybody starts their emails. Hi, my name is Mark and I'm a professional voice actor. So absolutely do not start your email like that. Rather than tell you specifically what to write as an opening line, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas that I want you to think about because I believe that the opening line of an email it's what we call the hook. So if you're watching a TikTok video, so you're sitting there, you're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or, YouTube, whatever, name the platform of your choice. Something happens in a video that makes you either stay to watch or to swipe away. And if there's something in there that makes you stay to watch, that's a hook because that's what it did. It hooked you. I think you need to take that same mentality into your email. You need to hook somebody on the first line. If you can hook somebody on the first line, then there is a higher probability that they're going to read the next line, or they're going to at least read that paragraph, or maybe they're going to go on to the next paragraph. But I also think that hook is at least partly influenced by your personality. And so I could tell you, hook them with humor. But if you're someone who's not naturally funny, then hooking them with humor isn't probably a great idea. And so giving you some funny opening line isn't going to work because it's just not who you are. In the same way, I could say, hook them with something factual. Well, if you're not somebody who's into factual hooks because you're somebody who's actually into humor, then that's not going to work for you. So the idea here, though, is that opening line needs to be somebody that makes them go, okay, all right, I'm going to keep reading. That's what you're looking for. One of the ways that I think that you can determine what that is going to be is by thinking about how you interact with email on your own. How many times have you had an email land in your inbox that started out with, hi, my name is Mark, and you're like, delete, 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 spam, 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 right? So what is it in an opening line of an email that makes you stop and want to keep reading? What is it that makes you choose to interact? What is it that makes you say, I'm going to respond to this person? I think you can draw a lot of clues about that, about email marketing, by thinking about how you interact with email on your own. But I definitely think that there needs to be something in that opening line that stands out. And here's the other reason for that. If 10 voice actors are marketing to somebody on a given day, 7 of them are going to write, hi, my name is Mark, and I'm a professional voice actor. 3 of them are going to hook. And those 3, by the way, are the 3 people who took the playbook. Who do you think is more likely to get read out of those 10 people? The 7 that started with the exact same sentence, or the 3 who started with something unique? Be one of the ones who starts with something unique. All right, let's see. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Glad you took time off and recharged. I hope that that's the case, because I was very worried that absence was going to make people be like, oh, moving on, next podcast. We don't need that guy anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, I'm coming back. I need to get some really awesome people to come back with so that I can draw everyone in again. Joe Cipriano, man, I love that guy. I reached out to Joe and I said, Joe, it is actually a crime against the voiceover industry that you have never been on my podcast before. But here was the thing. How do you interview a legend like Joe Cipriano? For real. How do you interview a legend like Joe Cipriano? That was my problem. It was trying to figure out, how do I do an interview that is worthy of that guy giving me an hour of his time? And I don't want to just have him on and ask all the same questions that everybody asks. And so that's been the reason why for 3 years, 5 years, I don't know, I've wanted to have him on my podcast, but I never knew how I was going to do the interview. And so when I finally reached out to him, he actually wrote me back. And you know what he said? He said, I will do this on one condition. And, this is Joe being Joe, right? So he's not like seriously, telling me, but this is what he says. He's like, I'll do it on one condition. He said, let's spend part of the interview talking about voiceover. And he said, I know you're going to ask different questions because I've told all the same stories over and over and over again. I know you'll ask some different questions. So let's spend part of the interview talking about voiceover, but we have to spend at least half the interview just talking about whatever, life and stuff and the movies we love and the food we love and the places we love to travel or whatever. And I was like, oh, see now. So I'm really excited. I still am putting together what the interview is going to actually look like with Joe Cipriano, but I think it's going to be awesome. I know it's going to be awesome. It's Joe freaking Cipriano. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't want to sit down and spend an hour learning from Joe Cipriano? So good stuff coming up on the podcast. Let me tell you. Let's see what else is going on. Do you believe that Voice123 is no longer worth the 888 level now? I only find drops in rankings, middle of the night auditions in the inbox, lower budgets, poor matches coming through. Yes or no? I can't totally disagree with that statement. I am at 888 right now. I signed up in October. The vast majority of my invitations come in the middle of the night. No question about that. That has been one of my beefs all along. I get down into the office between 8 and 9 every morning. And in most instances, pretty much every single day, almost every audition that I have received, which I receive very few, but almost every audition that I have received is already closed because I was invited in group 10, 12, 15, and I got the audition in the middle of the night. And actually, there's been a bunch of times when I've been invited in the middle of the night and it's already completely oversubscribed, right? 70 people have submitted for a job that was asking for 35. So I think that statement is, there's a lot of truth in that statement. I would say 85% of the bookings that I'm seeing are $300 or less. I have a minimum set, so I do not see anything under $250. So the vast majority of the auditions that I'm seeing are $300. Every once in a while, I see one for $700 or $1,000, but they are almost always TTS jobs. In just about every single instance, they have been TTS jobs. As of today, I went top 30. So I've been in the 50th percentile most of my time. Keep in mind, I have a 4-to-1 audition to like ratio. Okay. So for every 4 auditions that I submit, I get 1 like. And my booking rate is, I believe, 1 in 18 right now. 1 in 17 or 1 in 18. So even at a 4-to-1 audition to like ratio and a 1 in 17 booking rate, I've been in the 50th percentile. So that has a big impact on when you see auditions and what type of auditions that you see. All of that to say, am I convinced now more than ever that if you want to play on Voice123, you have to spend at least $2,200? Yeah, I think that's probably true. I wasn't sure, which is one of the reasons why I signed up for the site again. Keep in mind, I haven't been on the site in over a decade. So when I signed up in October, a lot of it was just about experimenting and, familiarizing myself with it again so that I could talk about it intelligently. And I would say now, 3.5 months in, I would say, yeah, I think if you're going to succeed on that platform, I think you almost have to be at the $2,200 level. But caveat to that, You can't just spend $2,200. You have to spend the $2,200. You have to have a fully optimized profile. You have to understand the rules of the platform, and you have to be a good voice actor. You can't just spend money and book on that site. But yeah, it is definitely getting harder and harder. And I am really starting to question. I mean, obviously I've still got time, right? I signed up in October, so I haven't given up yet. But what I have seen in the last couple of months is telling me that, yeah, 888 is not worth it. Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd be curious to know if anybody else has any other experiences or opinions on the 888 level, but Sam says, question, part 1, if I'm allowed. How do you approach the follow-up sequence when reaching out to specific companies, not production companies, by industry and using merge tags? So if I was reaching out to specific companies, so what I'm assuming you're asking here is I'm not reaching out to e-learning production companies. I'm reaching out to instructional designers at PetSmart and Morgan Stanley and John Deere and whatever, right? So you're reaching out to actual individual companies. In that case, I am probably going to do my follow-ups individually because I think it's probably a little bit harder. Now, if you are exclusively reaching out to instructional designers, and again, I'm just using one example, but if you were exclusively reaching out to instructional designers and you were only talking about e-learning, even though you were reaching out to individual companies versus production companies, then in that case, I think you could probably get away with a sequence because you are targeting a very specific audience with very specific messaging. And so I think that's part of how it works. Now, that being said, if you're reaching out to these companies and you're inquiring about multiple types of voiceover, then I think you probably need to write your follow-ups one-to-one. So hopefully that answers part 1 of your question. Part 2 of your question, they are outside the industry, so we need to speak to them differently than production companies, but still make an individual. Yeah, and I think that just reinforces that in all likelihood, I would probably be sending individual follow-up emails. I bumped up to the 2,200 level 6 weeks ago. Totally not worth it for real. Invited in groups 5 or 7 now, even though I still get invited in group 1 and 3 and others. So one of the questions that I would have for you is actually a couple of questions. 1, is your profile fully and completely optimized the way Voice123 wants it to be fully and completely optimized, which means not just uploading clips, but uploading those clips, having them keyworded, having all the SEO nonsense done. Have you done that? So that'd be question number 1. Question number 2, how many clips do you have? I mean, Sam can probably answer this better than I can. I think I've probably got 50 or 60 clips on my profile at this point, and that's probably still not enough, in all honesty. So I think the number of clips that you have makes a big difference. Do you have clips that sync up with the different types of voiceover that you want to be able to get on the site? So that'd be the second question. Third question is, what % are you in? What percentile are you in? It seems to me, from the countless people that I have talked to, if you're at the $2,200 level, you really need to be in the top 10 or 20%. If you're going to get maximum return on investment, you really need to be in the top 10 or 20%. How do you get in the top 10 or 20%? You get in the top 10 or 20% by having a fully optimized profile, having lots of clips for all the different types of voiceover that you want to do, being very strategic and choosy in the jobs that you are auditioning for, maintaining a high audition to like ratio. You don't even specifically have to book. I mean, obviously, yes, we want to book. You have to maintain a high audition to like ratio. And that's not just on the whole. That's on a week-to-week basis. You've probably noticed that Voice123 updates the percent rankings almost every week. Well, they do update them every week. And so if you have 5 auditions one week and you get 4 likes, that's amazing. But the following week, if you submit 6 auditions and you only get 1 like, that's actually going to probably pull you down. And so it's a week-to-week basis that you have to be able to maintain that audition to like ratio. And so there are a lot of factors. And this is one of the reasons why Voice123 is so frustrating for people, because you have to understand all of this stuff, and you have to be able to play by all of those rules. And if you don't play by those rules that way, then you are going to have a mostly frustrating experience on Voice123 from what I've gathered from it. How often do you delete your old auditions? Are you talking about like just auditions in general? You're not talking specifically about online casting? I mean, I keep everything. I'm a digital hoarder, I guess, probably is what it comes down to. But I do keep everything because you never know. I mean, I've legitimately had people come back like a year later. So you never know. So for what little it costs for storage at this point, I think it's just as easy for me to keep everything. If P2P audition has an okay rate and perhaps a 100% match, what might turn you away from auditioning? What number of responses submitted, reviews for client, script errors, nonsensical? If the budget is good and I am a match, I'm probably still going to submit. Even if like 60 people have already submitted, I'm probably still going to submit. One of the things that I've found on Voice123 so far, I think all of my auditions but 4 have been listened to. Not that I've submitted a ton of auditions, but what it shows me is that most clients do listen. So that's a positive. My understanding is that on voices.com, the auditions are actually presented to the buyer by order of voice match. So if 50 people have submitted, but only 20 of those people were a 100% voice match, those 100 people will appear first, regardless of if you were the last person to audition. And so that's a factor. And you never know how clients are going to sort auditions before they listen, or, there's so many variables that go into it. So if I believe I've got a legitimate shot to book the job, I'm going to submit. I'm going to submit for it. I'm 888 since December 1st, 12 likes on 105 auditions. It sucks, but it's also an opportunity to learn and grow. I'm not hanging my hat on the success. I've seen jobs for $3K. I auditioned to grow my experience. So what I would say right there, you've submitted too many auditions. I know you probably don't think that, but on Voice123, if you've submitted 100 auditions in a month, that's probably too many auditions. Voice123, you have to be very choosy. That's part of it. Now, what percent ranking are you right now? If you've got 12 on 100, are you in like the 40th percentile maybe? Because that makes a difference. Your audition to like ratio is what affects your percentile. Your percentile ranking is what affects when you see auditions, what types of auditions you see. The other thing, and I don't quote me on this, but my understanding is that you will see more of what you audition for. So if you audition for a bunch of $50 jobs, for example, you're going to see more $50 jobs, particularly if you audition for $50 jobs and get likes on $50 jobs. And so that's one of the reasons why I set a minimum budget on mine, so that I'm not seeing anything under $250, because I don't want the system to feed me more low budget stuff either. So that's something that I keep in mind. Liz says, I'm at the 2200. The optimization is key. That is what kept me in the top 20%. How many clips do you have, Liz? I'm just curious how many clips you have. Have you changed your opinion about voices? So when voices.com came out with their Black Friday special, I actually did reach out. What I got a message when I tried to get into my account was that your email address has been blocked and that you need to contact customer support. Most of you know this story. I got banned off the site years ago. So I did reach out to customer support and just said, hey, I'm interested in possibly taking another look at the platform. But I need to get my account unlocked. And then I never heard back from them. So I don't know. I guess my face is still on a dartboard in a boardroom somewhere, maybe. So I was going to consider giving it a second look. But the opportunity to do that has not been afforded me. I followed all the instructions that Voice123 Pros put together. Full disclosure, it was a slog, but tagging, keywording, splitting the samples, all of that is what made me more visible. It freaking sucks. And there was a less than 0% chance that I was going to do that for myself, which is why Sam did it for me. So Sam worked her magic and it was incredible. I would have never done it. I don't have the patience for it, honestly. Are you creating samples for your profile or using auditions for it? So I have not used any of my auditions at this point. What I have been doing, I did produce a new telephony demo for myself. That gave me a bunch of new clips. I did produce a new real estate narration demo for myself. That gave me a bunch of new clips. Sam's been hounding me about the docu-shorts that I've been doing. And so I've been creating clips from most of the docu-shorts that I've done at this point. And so because I've been putting out 1 or 2 of those a week for, almost a year, that gave me a lot of clips and extra samples that I was able to put up and build out some other playlists as well. Is it really worth it to jump all through all those hoops? What's the ROI? And that's a totally valid question, David. And that's one of the reasons why I signed up again. I got off the site about whatever it was, 10 or 12 years ago, because the ROI was no longer there for me. I had been an active member on Voice123 since, I don't know, like 2008 or something like that. And I had done really, really well on that site for a number of years, but I got to a point where the ROI was no longer there. So that's why I left. I got back on the site in October, partly because one of my coaches was strongly advising me to, and partly just because I get asked about it all the time. And I didn't feel like I could intelligently talk about it anymore because it had been so long since I had been on the platform. So part of me signing up for it was just an experiment. I just wanted to see. At this point, would I say that it's worth it? Heck no. Heck no. If you can get into platinum, 100%, it is worth it. If you're good. If you're good and you can get into, I guess it's not called platinum anymore. I think it's called elite. But if you can get in at that $5,000 level, I mean, everybody that I know that's making money on Voice123 at this point is making money as an elite member. I've talked to a few people who are doing okay at 2,200. I've not yet had a conversation with anybody who felt like the 888 was worth it. But the people that I know that are really making bank on the site, they're all at the elite level. I have 11 playlists and a total of 38 clips. So there you go. How many do I have, Sam? I don't even know. Let's go look, shall we? Let's go take a look at my Voice123. All right, here, let's pull this up. Okay. Nope, profile. Okay. So let's see. Playlists. I got 12 playlists. There's 6 there. There's 28 on that one, 8 on that one, 8 on that one, 6 on that one, 8 on that one, 7 on that one, 9 on that one. So, I mean, I got a lot of clips. Now, granted, I think, and Sam would know this better than I do, I think some of them have been duplicated at this point. David says 11 playlists, really? Now they're just seeing how much crap you'll do. Humiliation ritual. There I'm going to disagree with you completely, David. The multiple playlists are often about search. It's often about... So for example, some people will do searches for documentary, right? And so I have a playlist here that's documentary. But some people are going to do a search for unscripted because that's another format. That's another thing that they call it, is the unscripted reality. And so having 2 different playlists under those 2 different titles, because those are 2 different searches, there's absolutely value there. And so it's not about... I don't think in this case, it's not at all about a humiliation ritual or seeing how much crap you'll do. It's actually about being strategic in searches and being able to be found for different things, because there's 2 different aspects to Voice123. And I think this is something else that's often misunderstood about the platform. Voice123 is a casting site that sends out automatic auditions, right? You get those invitations, you submit. Voice123 is also a giant search engine where a lot of the work that is happening, and I've heard up to half the work on the platform. I don't know for sure, but I've heard that. But a significant percentage of the work that happens on that site comes from direct invitations. So somebody goes and does a search for, male documentary narrator, and they find 10 different people that they listen to clips of and say, oh, these guys sound good. And then they send them direct invitations. So that audition never goes out to the public at large. that audition is just going out to those 10 people that were invited directly. And so that's why you want to optimize your profile for search, and you need to think strategically about all of the keywords that you are using, because the more keywords that you have, the more clips that you have, the more searches that you are going to come up for. And so the more opportunity that you have to generate work for yourself that way. And so I would say that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. Mark doesn't have a lot of duplication. Avoid that if possible. If you do duplicate them, tag them specifically, accurately, and differently. Yeah, I didn't think I had a lot of duplication, but that's because Sam just hounds me to make new clips for her. So I just have to keep making new clips. Let's see. What else is going on? 30 samples is an absolute minimum. 50 is good. 70 plus is ideal. I'm not a V123 expert. This is just from experience. Yeah, Sam says she's not a V123 expert, but actually, technically, she's a V123 expert. So there you go. I need to get to 70 plus samples. I think if I get to 100, she'll leave me alone. So I probably need to come up with like a few more to get to 100. I spoke to a V123 manager on the phone today who said you can still be 40% and get invited in group one. I have been. I'm optimized to the max on V123, SEO plus demos. I have 70 clips, only 2 direct bookings. Okay. So there you go. I don't know that I've ever been invited in group one. I'm not going to say I haven't. I don't actually pay that close of attention. But I definitely can tell, like if I'm getting, the vast majority of my auditions are coming overnight, then I would say I'm not getting invited in group one. All right, guys, what else do you want to talk about? I mean, we can sit here and talk about Voice123, but is there anything else you want to talk about? Anybody else have any other questions that you would like to ask and get answered for Free Advice Friday? Certainly happy to just, answer whatever you guys want to talk about. If you have a question, type it in the comments, put a Q beside it. I'm certainly keeping an eye out for things in the chat. Anything business and marketing related is on the table. Welcome back to Free Advice Friday, the first one of 2026. Have you got your goals set for this year? Do you know what you're working towards this year? Are you being strategic? I'm really excited to be working on a JMC commercial demo. We're going to have a recording session here in a couple of weeks, coming up the end of January. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Still working on my coaching, waiting to see my scripts. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. It was needed. Very needed. Very overdue. Very, very overdue. Embarrassingly overdue, actually. So that's one of my goals for this year. Get my JMC demo done. I would love for that demo to win an award. And I would love for that demo to give me a couple of new agents. And so that's one of the things that I am working towards this year. One of my big goals. What about you? What are your goals this year? Who are you rooting for in the football playoffs? What is this ball of the foot of which you speak? I only know the baseball. I don't know of the football. What is the football? When should you consider investing in Source Connect? Ooh. Most agents now require you to have it. So you could make an argument that if you want to get a reputable agent, you are probably going to have to get Source Connect because they will probably require you to have it. At the minimum, I think it is in your best interest to learn how to use it. Take one of their classes. Source Connect offers a quick course or workshop or something like that, that you can learn how to use it. Get a day pass so that you can make sure that it's set up, that you understand how to use it, that you've actually used it. And if you don't want to maintain the subscription yet, at least you know how it works. You know how to set it up on your computer so that if you did get a booking that required it, you could do the day pass, get yourself set up and be ready to go. And so in that case, you could, in theory, say that you are Source Connect equipped. I think that's one of the things. The middle of the night auditions, is this because they want it waiting for you in the morning? Can't be that many European clients sending jobs. No, the middle of the night auditions are coming because the auditions are staggered. So group 1 might get that audition at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it might go out to group 2 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it might go out to group 4 at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And it might go out to group 5 at 7 o'clock in the evening. And it doesn't go out to group 15 until 4 a.m. or something like that. And so it's not, the reason why those auditions are coming in the middle of the night is because you're getting invited last after everybody else has already got it. By the time you get into the studio in the morning, the audition is actually probably not even available to you anymore because the group 1, 2, 3, 4s, whatever, have submitted for it. So keep in mind. Why JMC? Because he's the best. I'd like to be able to give you a more sophisticated answer than that, but because he's the best. That guy has one of the most proven track records of a demo producer of anybody that I have ever seen. His clients get amazing agents. His demos get award nominations and wins. There are agents who won't even look at you unless you have a demo from a handful of reputable producers now, because they just want to work with the best. His name can get you in the door. If it can get your demo listened to because he is the best. So yes, are the demos pricey? Sure, I suppose. I think everything is relative. I mean, if you spend $2,500 or $3,000 on a demo, but over the lifespan of that demo makes you $50, $60, $70, $80, $100,000. Is it, like I'm going to spend $3,000 to make $100,000 all day, every day, 365 days a year. Yeah, that's why, because he's the best. What are your expected trends for 2026? Reading styles, AI predictions, etc. I just had a conversation with somebody about this earlier. In 2025, it really felt like everybody was experimenting with AI. And I'm not sure how much of that was because they wanted to, as much as they felt like they had to. It was peer pressure. If your company wasn't using AI, you were missing the boat. If your company wasn't using AI, you weren't cool. If your company wasn't using AI, you were so 2024. And so there was so much pressure. Everybody felt like they had to use it. Every company felt like they had to integrate AI in some way. Every stinking quarterly earnings report last year mentioned AI 75 times. It's like they were running drinking games. And you had to take a drink every time the quarterly earnings report mentioned AI, and people were hammered in the first 3 minutes of the quarterly earnings report because it was like the buzzword. So everybody was doing the AI thing. What ultimately I think happened, to a degree anyway, I think everybody's sick of it now. And I don't mean in general. AI is not going away. We've been using AI for a decade and we didn't even know it. I don't think it's going away. I think how it gets used might shift a little bit. There were companies that did AI commercials that caught a lot of crap for it. I think if you look at social media, people are fed up with all the AI content. Social media platforms are starting to push back against all of the AI content. So in 2025, everybody was using AI because they had to, or they felt like they had to. I am cautiously optimistic that the pendulum is going to swing at least a little bit back in 2026. And some of those jobs that went to AI are going to start coming back to humans because companies are realizing this is not the best way to use AI. Now, I could end up being totally wrong on that, but I've started to see some of those conversations happening already. There are a lot of ways that I think that AI can be a benefit to society. There are a lot of ways that I believe that AI can help with productivity, that it can reduce the number of mundane tasks that humans are working on every single day. And I think that's how AI should be used. Free us up from doing the mundane and the stuff that nobody wants to do, so that we can be available to do the stuff that we do want to do, which is the creative. Maybe I'm just a naive Canadian. It's a possibility. But I do genuinely think the pendulum is going to swing a little bit. We'll see. You know, I obviously I want it to. I'm a guy who makes his living from voiceover just like everybody else does. So obviously I'm not ready to retire yet. So I'm hoping. But yeah, that's one of the trends that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on, is whether or not the pendulum swings back a little bit, and all of these jobs that were being voiced by AI that were just good enough, people start deciding maybe good enough isn't good enough, and maybe we do want to bring humans back into the mix. So I'll keep my fingers crossed. Let's see. What else? Assume you're making enough revenue. What do you decide to automate versus what you might hire out if you wanted an EA or a VA? There are certain tasks that have to be done no matter what. Those tasks that have to be done no matter what, and you know they have to be done no matter what, but you still procrastinate on doing them, those are some of the very first things that I would think about hiring out to a virtual assistant. Another factor I would say is, what are the things that can happen? What are the things that happen in your business that you do really, really well, but you don't explicitly have to do? Because those are really easy things to outsource as well. Because of the fact that you do them really well, it will be really easy for you to teach someone else how to take it over. So if you don't, obviously somebody else can't go in the booth and audition for me, but so I can't give that one away. But if there are other things that I do in my business that I do really well, or I do enjoy doing, but I don't have to do, it could be done by somebody else, then if I can teach somebody else to do it, I'm going to teach somebody else to do it. Those things that you just know that you're not going to do, period. I mean, when Brad and I started working together, Brad Highland and I started working together, and he said, I want you to give Voice123 a shot. And he said, but you have to optimize your profile. He said, if you're not going to optimize your profile, don't do it. And I said, well, Brad, I'm not going to optimize my profile. And so Brad said, okay, then talk to Sam. Sam will optimize your profile. I said there was a 0% chance that I was going to do it, but Sam, she can do it. She understands it. She's a freaking amazing at it. She's a wizard at it. So yeah, that's absolutely going on my list to get outsourced. So those are some of the things that I would be thinking about. I think the other thing that you have to understand is, having a virtual assistant doesn't mean that you have a full-time employee. It doesn't even mean that you have a part-time employee. It means that you have somebody who helps you out when you need them. And for somebody, that might look like having somebody working for them 10 hours a week. And for somebody, it might look like having them work for them for 5 hours a week. And for somebody else, it might look like random one-off projects as opportunities arise or needs arise. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions that we have to get past, because I think we get afraid to hire somebody because we feel like, oh, if I start working with this person, I'm going to have them on my payroll for the rest of my life. No, I have people that I hire for one-off projects, and then I don't speak to them again for 8 months. And then when I need them again, I reach out and say, hey, I got something else. Are you interested? Yeah, let's go. And we do it. Like, I don't have somebody just sitting on my payroll 24/7. So I think keep that in mind too. Don't talk yourself out of it or be intimidated by the prospect of it because you think that it's got to be this huge commitment, because it doesn't. Having somebody do something for you for an hour a week That's 5 hours that you got back. Or having somebody do something for you for an hour a week that takes you twice as much to do or 3 times as many hours to do because you're not as efficient at it, right? You got to think about it from that perspective. So those are some of the things that I would take into consideration when it comes to outsourcing. Guys, thanks for joining me on Free Advice Friday. If you've enjoyed the live stream, if I've answered one of your questions, if you picked up some other little nugget along the way, do me a favor, hit that like button. I would certainly appreciate it. I do want to mention Voiceover Marketing Playbook is out right now. Step-by-step, easy to follow marketing course that's going to teach you how to find your own leads, build your own client base, and become the consistently working voice actor that you want to be. This is me taking a decade worth of marketing knowledge and condensing it down into an 8-hour course. All the stuff that you need, none of the stuff that you don't, and it's that simple. So Playbook is available now. You go to voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. There it is right there on the screen, voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. Couple of different options for you. For bundles for the course. But if you are going to market this year, or if you know you need to market this year, or if you want to market this year, but you don't know where to start, voiceovermarketingplaybook.com is the website. Check it out. Let me look at my calendar. What do I got going on next Friday? I think I'm going to be good for Free Advice Friday next Friday. So hopefully I'll be able to come back and join you. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. That way you'll get notified whenever I'm going live again. So if I am going to be here for Free Advice Friday, you'll be able to come back. You'll be able to watch. I try to do it as many Fridays as I can, answering whatever voiceover business and marketing questions that you have and you want to get answered. That's what I'm here for. That is what I am ready and willing and able to talk about. So keep that in mind. Podcast comes back next week. Now you got me curious because I know I sent so many podcast invitations. Let me look. I got to look this up. So I got Tim. I got Joe has confirmed. Ryder has confirmed. Who else? I've reached out to a couple other people who haven't yet confirmed, but working on some stuff. Who do you want to hear on the podcast? Let me ask you that question. Who would you like to have an interview with? Who would you like to be able to learn from for an hour on the show? I would love to hear. I'm always open to your ideas. I do the show for you guys. So if there's somebody specific that you would like to have on the show, I would love to know who it is. And if I could get them to come on the show, I'm certainly happy to reach out and try. I'm 328 episodes into the podcast. And in 328 episodes, I've only ever had 2 people say no. So my hit rate's pretty good. So if there's somebody that you want to have on the show, let me know. I love his Nimble course. I hope there are new classes or additions. I don't know that Nimble's made any significant changes since the last time I updated the course, so I need to sit down and take a look at that. I know they got the email marketing thing going on right now. I have not had a chance to even play around with the email marketing feature yet, so I don't have a video on that. But Lisa says, someone who does audio tech. So I have had Georgia Tech on in the past. I've had Jordan Reynolds on in the past. Uncle Roy's been on in the past. So I've got a few episodes on that. But yeah, it might be time. We could do something on that again. Danny states to talk about Apollo. Yes. Danny has been on the podcast before, but we talked a lot about voiceover views. So yeah, I could bring Danny on the podcast and talk about Apollo. Hang on. Let me make a note of that. Look, this is what happens when you join Free Advice Friday. You get to have influence. It's like sitting on the board. The sequence thing, there's supposed to be part 2. I've just been avoiding that video just for your benefit, Tab. Seriously. I just want to, I'm going to, if it takes me 5 years to put that video out just to drive you insane, I will spend the next 5 years of my life gleefully driving you insane. You and Sam can get together and commiserate on how much of a procrastinator I am. You guys don't even know. There is nobody. There is no, like, literally, if there was like a World Series of procrastination, if there was an Olympics of procrastination. People don't realize this about me, but I would take the gold medal in every single category. I am that good at procrastination. All right, guys, I got to jump out. I got some other stuff I got to do this afternoon, but thank you as always for joining me on Free Advice Friday. I certainly do appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before you go. I would greatly appreciate that as well. And if all goes well, I'll see you back here next week again for Free Advice Friday. As always, whatever you decide to do this weekend, have fun, stay safe, and go find some leads.